On today's show, the guys welcome Scott Anderson, Chief Clinical Officer at SyncThink and advisor for CrashCourse, talking about their newest health initiatives. We've got an East Initiative update and some banter between the guys. All that and more up next on EduTechGuys. You're listening to the EduTechGuys, EduTechGuys.com. Hello and welcome to this episode of EduTechGuys. I'm David Henderson.
Hey, I'm Jeff Madlock.
Yeah, welcome to the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, turning it on, downloading, however you're getting it. Thank you so much for stopping by.
And if you want to get a little more, just go out to the web, www.edutechguys.com, or heck, you can just put us in Google, just type in that good old beautiful word, EduTechGuys. You're going to find us lurking there. We're also on social media. Just go look at the Twitters and the Facebooks and the stuff like that. You're going to find us.
That's right. That's right. We're out there everywhere.
Don't forget to tell us how you like the show. Listen to us on iTunes Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor.fm, you name it. We're out there. Just pick your favorite listening and you'll probably find us. Make sure that you do like us and thank us and give us all the good tweets and retweets because we need it because we're very, very, very desperate for you liking us. That's what
we are. iTunes is a big one. iTunes,
you go to iTunes. We go to iTunes and we have a handful of reviews, but I go to some podcasts and it's like 7,000 reviews. I'm like, geez, we must suck. Because there's
they do a much better job of asking.
I guess
so
that's what it is.
Please, if you're out there listening.
We have 5 stars, but it's like, we only have so many family that can go on and give us.
That's right.
So it's really interesting stuff happened this week. This happens to be season 5, episode 1.
Oh my gosh, we are in season 5.
Now, see, I don't think we do seasons right because we do a season as a year. So we just released season 4. We're actually tweeting them as we speak. Back out, reposting them. We did 45 episodes in a year. That's not bad.
Oh no, that's almost one a week. So
vacations and everything else that we couldn't get to, but that's so we think of a season, I guess, as a year. So.
I don't know. I guess we could switch to the TV format.
Is that like 10 or 20 or 10 episodes?
It's like it used to be like
on Netflix, it's 10 episodes or something.
Yeah.
Or something.
Well, and on TV, it used to be 13 episodes was a season. I guess maybe if we just started every 13 episodes, we restart.
Well, we'd be in season 12.
Yeah.
Seinfeld would have nothing on us.
No, that's right.
If we were doing it that way, we'd be dominating like nobody's business. That's interesting.
Hey, so if you're out there and you're listening and you want to know what season we should be in, by all means, let us know.
Tell us what season we're supposed to be in because we're not really sure either.
Is it duck season? Rabbit season?
That's interesting. Hey, it's summertime. We know you're out there, and you probably went to ISTE or you didn't go to ISTE, but you're probably doing some PD out there. We'd love to know what PD you're doing. What's the hot topic that's going on this year? What's actually different from the last 10 years or the last 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, really, I want to hear from the folks who have been doing this for quite a while, and especially those folks who have gone to various conferences, and you've seen kind of the same stuff for the last 5, 7, 10 years,
decades.
Exactly. What are you seeing that's different from what you have seen over and over and over again?
Yeah, I'd really like to see that myself.
I'm curious about that.
We try to keep everything fresh and happening, and at this point we're picking singular apps or one thing, and we're just hammering it into the ground, and like podcasting. But I mean, that to me is where we're dropping into. We're just hammering stuff. Finding new technologies is kind of difficult. It seems. It's like something. It's a new spin on the same thing.
Yeah.
But today we have a really interesting one, though. We have talking with Scott Anderson about CrashCourse. And what it's about is head injuries. It's about concussions and how they're using technology to, one, get the word out there,
right,
to change the way it's viewed, to remove any stigmas attached to it or, to sports and head injuries and things like that. So it's a really great conversation. He has a lot to say, and I think you're going to really enjoy hearing everything that he has a lot to say about. So it's going to be a really good show.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think we ought to just let's hear from one of our sponsors, and then let's just jump into that. You know, I've been in education for more than 20 years, and I've seen the challenges that some students have to face every day. I mean, whether it's going to school hungry or not being able to see the doctor when they're sick, I mean, all these challenges make it hard for kids to focus on learning.
Thankfully, Concordia University in Portland is leading the way with their 3 to PhD program that helps to combat student fears, freeing them to pursue their highest dreams. They're revolutionizing education by creating a holistic model that provides groceries, healthcare, and even clothing to students right there on campus, helping them to thrive and helping our community to strengthen and grow.
Yeah, Concordia's College of Education offers online and on-campus programs where students have the opportunity to learn about a more compassionate approach to education and to see how nurturing the whole student can lead to amazing things.
Hey, to learn more about how you can help students conquer their monsters and achieve their highest dreams, visit cuportland.edu/let's conquer. #nurture, educate, grow. Hey, welcome back to the EduTechGuys. We have a guest on the show with us, and we're really excited about today. We're going to let him introduce himself and tell us who he is and where he's from and all that good of stuff. So here we go.
Well, thanks for having me. My name is Scott Anderson. I'm an advisor to a little nonprofit organization called TeachAids, the maker of CrashCourse. And I'm excited to be here with you guys today. My background is I come from the clinical space. I'm a clinician by training, and I got involved with TeachAids mission during my time working at Stanford University, where TeachAids was founded.
I like how you said a little organization called TeachAids. We're talking about the health education folks for right now.
That's right.
I mean, groundbreaking stuff going on. Let's talk about, let's jump right in with both feet, and let's talk about CrashCourse. Let's talk about how technology is impacting concussions and head injuries and what TeachAids and CrashCourse is doing about that.
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually. I'm really proud of the work that's being done with this organization. And really, you have to go back to the initial early days of the work that Pia Sorkar, the founder of TeachAids, has done at Stanford. And it really, in her research, which initially revolved around this idea that you could create better, more immersive communication tools to reduce and eradicate stigma from issues that have high social presence to them, or that typically, socially there is a stigma attached to them. So she started out in the early days tackling HIV and AIDS, and really found that the particular strategy that she utilized by reducing or eradicating the stigma, particularly outside the U.S., was really successful with the approach that she developed. This kind of proprietary approach that I think that she developed during her time there. And when she was done with that, she said, "Look, what are the other kind of prevalent issues that have stigma attached to them?" And through some research over a period of time, they identified concussion as one of those areas. And so what has been done leading up to that has been really remarkable, to be able to see them really tackle what people are referring to as the invisible injury of concussion, and the stigma and the perceptions that are attached to this particular injury, not only from the perspective of young athletes, but also the people who are treating them, and the coaches, educators, and parents that are involved with managing them when this unfortunate incident happens. And so really what they've done is they spent 2 years creating an evidence base of research around common perceptions or misconceptions, I would say, around this particular issue. And they've also partnered with some of the leading world-class researchers, clinicians, and physicians all over the world to create what I consider to be the new science of concussion, the most prevalent and evidence-based approach to what we know about this particular problem. And what they did was they created an education curriculum, both for athletes and for coaches and administrators, to be able to really drill down into what is fact and what is fiction around this problem once and for all, and to do it in a way that is developed based on the insights and the feedback that they've gotten from the youth sports population. And so it's really well done, really, a lot of scientific rigor behind the efforts that they've put in to make this really truly an evidence-based education tool. And I really think it's going to truly be disruptive in this landscape, but also really going to arm people who are in the care and in the charge of young people with the most up-to-date and the most beneficial information in a digestible format that athletes will resonate with. Because now we're dealing with Generation Z, and we have to be able to produce materials that is on their terms, essentially, is in a way that we're in the digital age of Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and we've got to create content that fits that type of mold so it can be digested by this population. And what we've learned from this experience of going out and getting feedback from thousands of athletes is that they don't want to take a doctor's word for it. They don't want to take a coach's word for it. They don't want to take an educator's word for it. They want somebody who they know and who they look up to, potentially, someone who what we consider to be a near peer, to provide that information to them. And that's where we're going to see behavioral change. And that's where we're going to see them really have an experience that's going to make them make the decision that when maybe I don't feel right, I should come out of the game instead of continuing to try to play and put myself at further risk.
Yeah.
So I know it's a long explanation, but I wanted to make sure I covered all of it and make sure we kind of talk about specifically, the steps that were taken to really, over a period of time, make this what it is. It's not just, something that was just put together, for mass distribution for no reason. It's really something that's been thoughtfully done. And I haven't even mentioned the fact that it's free. So that's even a greater thing.
Yeah.
This is just a resource that everybody can have access to. They don't have to pay for, and the idea is to really do this the right way.
Right. Well, it's amazing to me how far we've come in really, I say a short period of time, and by a short period of time, what I mean is the time frame in which we went from the kind of old school, taking a look at, especially in terms of head injuries and concussions. Jeff and I are old guys, so we so
as am I.
in the days when we were growing up, head injury, broken arm, you name it, unless you were pretty much bleeding out, it was get back up
put
and
some dirt on it.
Yeah, exactly. Put some dirt and some spit and
it's
call it
stigma.
Good and get out there. And up until just recently, it seems that more and more it's being taken way more seriously than I think anybody, even the folks who have been studying it, even realized it was going to be taken as it's come. You're looking at major changes in professional sports, Major League Baseball with the helmet changes, and that was in Major League and National League Football as well. And, the public at large, initially, there was a lot of scoffing and kind of, look at that. And I can't believe these dudes are doing that. And through, education and continued education efforts, people are realizing, actually, we kind of need to protect our heads. If we're not going to give up playing a game where we bash each other's heads, then the least we can do is protect those.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And, I think that's the benefit of this type of material, because what we're doing is we're allowing people to develop empathy for people with this affliction. It's a public health epidemic in our country and in sport. And it's really creating a scenario where a young person or a coach can observe what happens to somebody when they sustain a concussion without them actually having to go through it. They can actually experience what it's like to have a concussion, the different types of symptoms, the ways that it affects their life. They can feel like they're having one, but they don't have to assume the risk of being out on the field and having to have one, right? Excuse me, to know exactly what it is that's happening to them and how their performance suffers as a result. And so this idea that I have to play through this because my team needs me is actually not grounded in reality when we're showing them that the performance dip that we see from people who are continuing to play through this type of thing is only hurting the team. And so it's giving this idea that, look, you can experience this this problem firsthand without actually having to physically go through it. And you can see what's happening to your performance and the team around you's performance as a result of you being on the field, when in reality, you're going to help your team by being out of the game and getting the help that you need. And really, this comes down to, this being a silent thing. When you see somebody wearing crutches or in a cast or in a brace, you know that they have some type of physical problem, and everyone feels empathetic towards them. But no one can see what's happened to someone's brain. And so typically we don't have this feeling that we empathize with what they're going through. And there's this idea that, well, if I can't see it, you must be fine. Get out there,
right.
And that's how when I played the sport and football, and that's how it was when I was playing. And you guys we're of the same generation where that was the case as well. And now we're really getting people to understand, as we learn more and as we produce more research around this area, what really is at stake here. And it's really interesting when we talk to these thousands of kids, we found that a large number of them found concussion and they believed in their minds that concussion was not a significant injury. But then there's a whole other faction of student athletes who thought concussion is a very serious injury. And so we don't even have a consensus or a clear understanding of what the problem actually is amongst people who are subjected to the risk the most. And so I found that to be really interesting, that there's a clear opportunity here to provide some education to get everybody on the same page and really believing the reality of the situation rather than what they just perceive based on not knowing what it is or, what they should do as a result of it.
Sure.
So, I think what TeachAids and CrashCourse specifically are doing here, and let me get this right, by bringing awareness to it and allowing the students and the parents and the teachers and the coaches and everyone to understand what's happening, that'll bring even more awareness to it. And I know there's a lot of researchers. I believe Stanford's still working on this, aren't they? They're still a viable game player in this and doing the research on this. And so don't you think we'll see where technology, it comes into play now? Now we can get this information right to the students and parents, in the blink of an eye. So that's one of the big deals, and that's what CrashCourse is about. And then we can give them the opportunity to kind of, do the virtual. This is what it's like. You can do it without getting a concussion. This is what you're going to go through. So do you think we'll get to the point? And I see probably CrashCourse and TeachAids getting to this point where we can start to have some real-time diagnostics in the helmets, real-time diagnostics, so that a player on the field in high school and junior high and college and professional sports, that the coaches on the sideline and the medical team and the physical trainers, they can see what's happening before even the player does. Do you think that's going to get to that point?
Absolutely. I think we will have a better understanding of risk factors. And I think what's happening now is that people are spending so much time in this area to study it. They're really identifying, what puts athletes at risk for this? For example, there's a really great study that just was published probably a month ago at the University of Arizona that showed that daytime sleepiness and sleep deprivation increases the risk of concussion amongst young people. And so if you're not getting a good night's sleep, or you're going to bed late and you're only getting 5-6 hours of sleep a night, the chance of you getting a concussion go up 3 times.
Oh, wow.
So just little things like that we're learning about the brain and the need for the brain to be optimized in order to perform. And also, essentially what the assumption of risk actually is for some of these sports that they're playing, and whether or not the brain is, at a point in its maturation where it's safe enough to expose them to these types of impacts. Are all things that we're going to probably have a better understanding of going forward, and allow people to make a better educated decision about whether it's right for them to participate in these types of activities, knowing that they, may not be able to because their academic workload requires them to get less sleep, or because they, have a sleep issue, or because they have some other confounder, ADHD, for example, that may increase the risk of them getting another a head injury. So there's quite a bit of that going on behind the scenes right now, but I certainly think we will get to a point now where, or in the very near future, where we'll be able to separate out and say, based on the information that's collected on the athlete, we can say with this amount of certainty that this is likely a concussion, or this is not. This is some other problem that we need to further evaluate and rule out, this being specific to the brain. Because one thing we do know currently today is that you see a lot of sports where there's a collision and the head whips back. That whiplash mechanism in a lot of cases produces symptoms that are very similar to a concussion, but the neck is really the culprit that's involved and is the driver of the symptoms. And so being able to parse those out and say, look, this is not a head or brain related issue. This is the neck, and the neck is the thing that needs to be actively rehabilitated. We're getting to a place now where we can really start to parse those things out and be more specific about the type of diagnosis that we're making and the subsequent treatment that follows it, because that's the number one thing, is that every person that has a diagnosis of concussion should be actively rehabilitating their condition, and you have to have specific objective diagnostic information in order to inform you about the appropriate treatment so you can resolve the condition. And I think in a lot of cases where people are struggling to return from concussion injury or having some type of prolonged recovery, it's typically because they haven't received the right type of treatment, or they haven't gone through the right type of testing to identify what particular area of the brain is impaired and what is the remediation strategy that's needed in order to get it back to normal. And the longer we wait on that, the harder it is to uncover that mess.
Yeah.
So that's really what's happening right now. Is we've got to be able to have high quality evidence-based diagnostics. We've got to be able to use them at the point of injury, and we've got to be able to serially monitor people over time and show the effectiveness of the treatment strategy that we're employing in order to get the athlete back.
Yeah, so I think what this is great is because this is not just for the athletes, the parents, and the coaches. This is for all the educators and anyone that's around those student athletes, because if it's not treated properly, get me right here, I mean, you're talking about emotional, physical, cognitive effects that can go on for quite some time. And now that you have this information, even the teachers in the classroom can monitor these students, because some of these might not even show up till several days later, but we're back in class after a Friday night football game on a Monday or Tuesday, and we can see these things happening. And if we get this information out to educators, they can alert the needed people, right?
That's absolutely correct, 100%. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that's really the core of what CrashCourse is after, is really getting kids to realize, look, it's not worth it. If there's any doubt, you've got to pull yourself out of there. Don't be the hero. Let somebody further and properly evaluate you, because if you continue to play while impaired, the recovery from that may take you, who knows how long, and your career has just been, become uncertain. And if you can do the right thing and make the right decision initially, we can mitigate the effects of that, and we can properly rehabilitate you quickly and correctly. And I think that's the message behind this initiative.
Wow, this really sounds great, Scott. This is some really interesting stuff. One more thing I want to ask. So, what do you think the next steps are? The next steps that you see, for education technology in this field and education technology, period?
Yeah, I think the next steps are getting buy-in from larger organizations, national governing bodies, larger associations who support coaches and who support educators and parents, really, and being able to say, look, we buy into this type of approach. We want to help promote this idea that we're educating people the proper way and providing them with the latest and greatest information about the evidence base around this particular topic. And I want to see everybody kind of come together and collectively buy into a single-minded approach about how we educate people around this topic, because and if the more support we have from the top down, the easier it will be at the end of the day for the athlete to speak up. And I think that's really crucial. And we're seeing a lot of that right now with some of the partnerships that we've had already with USA Football and Pop Warner and some of the other organizations that we're in discussions with today. It's really fantastic to be able to have those conversations and to see their enthusiasm for wanting to join us in this messaging. So I think that's important, and I think that's where the future will lie.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you've mentioned multiple times, the partnerships, the simulations, some of the other available tools that are accessible through CrashCourse. So how do folks find out about it? Where do they go to look at this free information about concussions and the effects of concussions and incorporating that in their classroom and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so if you go to TeachAids.org, TeachAids.org, that's the website. All the content and the depth and breadth of how the content was developed is available for people to access for free. They can actually directly correspond with the TeachAids staff as well about getting it involved in their organization and developing a partnership for how this can be rolled out. the technology is continuing to evolve and continuing to develop, and the content is as well. And so there's some really great things that are coming in the future that everyone's super excited about. And I think being able to interact with the TeachAids staff about what particular things you want to include in your organization are ways that we can, work closely with you to roll those out into your school system or your district or your larger sports organization, or even just at an individual school. It's all free. There's no cost. There's no strings attached. The only thing we want is to provide like I said, the latest and greatest information, and to begin to unpack this problem and change the stigma associated with it. So starting at the website, getting the materials, contacting the folks, in our office, and being able to develop the terms of how we can provide this to your organization at no cost is something that everyone's really excited about and eager to do. So that's where I would start.
Awesome. So I want to throw out there too, we can find you on social media, Twitter at TeachAids, probably the same on Facebook, right? So folks,
that's correct.
Folks can find you out there. That's, everybody loves that social media.
I was just going to say, they can always send us a message directly too about their interest, and we can follow up with them directly through social media as well. Yeah.
The website is full featured. You can find everything you're looking for at teachaids.org, and we'll definitely throw it out on the social media ourselves. Hey, Scott, thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure being with you, and I appreciate the time.
You bet, man. Thank you.
Hi there. I'm April Jackson, and this is your East Update. This week, we dive a little further into Miss Arkansas 2018 Claudia Raffo's experience in East at Nettleton High School.
Community service projects while incorporating technology. At least that was my experience. I really felt like Middleton High School did a good job of using the community that we were in and finding what was going on in the community, and then using technology to help out those programs or organizations, whatever they might have needed. And so you learn a lot of software, and yes, you learn a lot of technology, but you also learn that so in your future life, whatever it might be, I'm going into pharmacy, you could be going to med school, you could be going to law school, whatever it might be, technology is so important in today's society. And so I really feel like it gives you the solid foundation for how technology is going to continue to grow throughout the millennial age. If you're on the fence and you've heard really great things, why not try an opportunity that's going to, further your education? You can learn so many things. Like I said earlier, it's not just about technology. It's not just about the community service. It's, communication skills and working with others, working on team projects. And so really you get kind of a whole package when you're involved in East.
If you're interested in hearing more about how community service impacted our alumni, follow us on social media at The East Initiative or visit our website at eastinitiative.org. I am April Jackson, and this has been your East Update.
Hey, thank you so much to the East Initiative for providing their update this week. Always entertaining and informative stuff from the folks over at East.
Yeah, big shout out to Matt Dozier and the crew, and thank you for the Liberty Bell picture that you sent from Philadelphia when you went to ISD. He, I asked, and he did it. So,
he did.
Next time you better watch out.
Thank you so much to Scott Anderson for taking time to share some of the really cool things that they got going on there with CrashCourse.
Yeah, really, really cool stuff. Thanks for coming on the show. And I'll be honest, that was enlightening to me. I didn't know about that kind of stuff. I knew about head injuries, and I knew about concussions, especially in sports, and the way it does affect kids. But now I can really see that it's bigger than we thought it was,
right? And
that there's these stigmas attached to it. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, and the education that they're trying to put out there to help people understand, what are the different types of head trauma? How do concussions affect performance and their brain activity and thinking, and how to prevent them, which I think is probably even more important. I mean, like I said in the interview, if we're not going to stop playing sports where we bash each other's heads in, at least we can understand what we're doing to our heads.
That's true. Yeah, and at least we're trying to protect ourselves.
Exactly.
It's been a pretty good show. Hope you're having a great summer. And hey, I'm Jeff Madlock.
I'm David Henderson.
We'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to the EduTech Guys, edutechguys.com.